Hello, welcome to the Alaska Sea Life Center once again for another Telequarium program where we're bringing the aquarium to you. So once again, we're back here with aquarist Leo.
Hello.
And he is going to be showing us probably my favorite animal in the Sea Life Center. I'm pretty biased about it. But we have several giant Pacific octopus here. And we're hopefully going to be feeding one that we have here right in front of us and see maybe if this one will interact with us a little bit. But Leo's just going to tell us a bit about the animal while we're trying to get it to come over, see if it comes and interacts with us. If you have any questions, go ahead and toss them on down there in the chat, and hopefully we can answer those for you. But otherwise, we're going to see if Wrangle will come on over. So Leo, why don't you tell us about Wrangle while we work on our food here?
Sounds great. So Wrangle is our largest octopus that we have here. And what's really cool about the Alaska Sea Life Center is that we actually have 6 giant Pacific octopus. Most aquariums have 2, one on display, one in the back. But because we live in the octopus's backyard, we actually get to have a lot of them for fun, which is great because I love octopus and I love feeding them. So I'm really excited that I get to broadcast this because you get to join me on my favorite part of the day. So today we are feeding razor clams. The way I try to bring Wrangle over is by basically wafting the bacon over, and they're actually able to smell the bacon, figuratively, with their suckers. So they have about 1,500 suckers on their 8 arms, and they can all individually taste, all individually move around, and function as if they are individuals. And that's, kind of cool because they have a different kind of intelligence. Most creatures that we're familiar with have like a centralized nerve system called the brain, and there's this sense of individual within this organism. Whereas an octopus has a distributed nervous system where most of its quote-unquote brain is actually it's distributed amongst its 8 arms. So, and it's all the nervous system, all the nerves are actually used to manipulate each individual suckers to move and taste. And so, the more, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I've realized, I see an octopus, or there's one way to look at an octopus as one, individual with one brain, with a funny brain that goes across its arms. But I've learned to see them as more so as a collective sucker disc creature that all work together to feed a single mouth that has a little brain, but ultimately it's this colony of suckers, which is kind of cool. An interesting way to be as an octopus with distributed intelligence.
You can see he's kind of tucked back in that corner while Leo's trying to lure him with the taste of that food. To me, and I said it, if you saw our tour through the Sea Life Center, I kind of think of giant Pacific octopus as being the cats of the sea. They really just like to tuck up in a corner somewhere and snooze for most of the day. They can wake up, they can have the zoomies for about 5 minutes, just run around their habitat, and then they'll just tuck right back up in that corner. And in the wild, they're not like a social creature, really. I mean, they would have a safe spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're actually, I would consider the exact opposite of a social creature. If 2 octopus are near each other, they will actually try to get away from each other. And if they're forced to be together, for example, a tank, they will actually try to actively kill each other. So they're very antisocial, except for the one part of their life when they reproduce. And then immediately afterwards, if we don't take the male away, the female will try again to kill the male. So they're actually incredibly antisocial, which is to me really interesting considering how intelligent they are.
Right.
But yeah, as you can see, they are being antisocial.
Yeah, we'll scoot on down that way, maybe see if we can't get them.
The glorious part of working as an aquarist.
Is it clam all the time, or what sort of stuff do you feed them?
We rotate between clam, sometimes fish, and crabs. They really like crabs, but that's what we just fed them last time, so we're trying to change up their diet. There we go.
So you, of course, can see all those the suckers that they have on those arms that come out And you said this is how they taste, huh?
Exactly.
And so when you touch them, they actually are tasting you. And I mean, it's weird to say, but we're meat, right? So they do grab onto us. They're like, oh, you know what? Maybe I could eat that. It's the same with the anemones. You know, when we touch the anemones in the touch tank, the other day you were putting food on them and they kind of curled those tentacles in.
Right.
They're tasting us too. And they're saying, this is just some meat thing. They don't happen to know there's a whole human attached to the other end of it.
Right. So we're like, yeah. Is this the big meal? Maybe, maybe not.
And if you ever do visit us here at the Sea Life Center, and perhaps, you know, if you make it up to Alaska, or maybe you're already in Alaska, you should come check out the Sea Life Center when you can. When we're open, we actually offer a chance to come back here and interact with the octopus. You can really see there, Wrangle's grabbing onto Leo's arm, really using those suction cups. And it doesn't hurt. It's weird.
No.
It's really weird.
It's like hundreds and thousands of little plungers all sticking onto you and then releasing. And
Yeah.
it's that suction noise. It's unlike anything else.
Yeah, if you maybe as a kid, or maybe you are a kid, and you have like a dart gun, like a Nerf gun or something like that, if you ever stick one of those to your thumb or something, that's sort of what they feel like.
There you go.
But of course, in the middle of all those arms, at the base of the suckers, there's a mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is shaped like a chicken beak. And then inside of that chicken beak, there is a snail tongue called a radula, which is pretty weird, but we have to remember that these guys are related to a clam or a snail, which is like a mollusk, and a lot of mollusks are grazers. And so these guys are related to little like snails that used to roam around and eat algae. So yeah, it's pretty fascinating. One of my favorite facts about octopus and digestion is that not only do they have a chicken beak and a scrapey snail tongue, but once they actually eat the meat, actually goes through its esophagus, which is surrounded by its brain. And it actually goes through its brain, which is shaped like a donut, and the food actually has to go through it. So I imagine if the octopus eats a bit of food that's a little too big, I wondered if they get like a brain freeze or a headache in a way.
Yeah, they really got to shred up the food with the radula.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't want to hurt their brain. So yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
So out in the wild, like we said, they're pretty antisocial. They kind of tuck themselves up in their dens.
Right.
And how often do they eat in the wild? Do we know?
It takes several hours for them to digest.
Okay.
And that actually depends on the water temperature. So what's really cool is these giant Pacific octopuses ranges in size depending on how warm it is. And so, further down south you go, their metabolism's a lot faster.
Okay.
And so it's whereas these guys up here, their metabolisms are much slower. So it's kind of like the difference between a slow burning candle versus a firework. And the animals down there are just burning through more calories, being in a warm place, being more active, and so they'll just eat more to compensate for that. Whereas the guys up here, they don't move too much.
Right.
They'll hide in their den more often because it just takes that much longer to digest food.
Yeah.
And so they don't eat as often. But on the other hand, because they take so long to do everything, they actually live a lot longer. And so giant Pacific octopus are the largest living living species, but they're also the longest living species. And they live about 5-6 years, which might seem short, but most octopus live 1 to 2 years. So these guys are considerably a lot longer lifespan.
You said there's one time in their life that they're breeding, though.
Right.
That's the only time they're not really antisocial.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
It's at the end, kind of like a salmon or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We'll know Wrangle's about that age, or around 5-6, and he hasn't displayed any funny behaviors. But we'll know that they're ready to reproduce when they lose interest in food.
Yeah.
And they'll start kind of acting a little skittish, and they just behave a little differently. And that's when they know, that it's towards the end of their life and they're ready to reproduce. And, when females meet a male and are receptive towards him, she'll take his eggs, or take his sperm, and she'll hold on to it and look for a den. And they could actually hold on to, it's a packet of sperm called a spermatophore, but she can hold on to this for about 6 months.
Oh, okay.
or until she finds a suitable den to lay her eggs, fertilize them, and she will actually tend the eggs for 6, 7, 8 months, or no, not a year, until she basically starves to death.
Okay.
And around that time, the larvae would hatch and then float on to start their own octopus lives.
Huh.
On the other hand, the males, they're also terminal breeders, and they'll try to give as many spermatophores to as many females as possible, and they enter this state called wanderlust, and they'll just roam around, forget to eat, forget to protect themselves, forget to hide, and they eventually fall to predation as a result.
Yeah. And of course, we haven't really talked about it, but Alaska is known for its seafood.
Right.
And octopus are a seafood item.
Definitely.
So people do eat these, and
Right.
I've been out to communities in Alaska that low tide, they go out and they look for big rocks, and
Right.
under the big rocks, sometimes you'll see like a little hole, and outside that hole, I guess there's what's called like a midden pile,
Right,
which is
right.
just all shells. If
Right.
you imagine that the octopus is eating crab and clam and that sort of stuff, there's this pile of shells, like a
Right.
little graveyard outside. And that's how these communities find the octopus and can actually hunt them.
Right,
And
right.
it's a lot of meat. How heavy do one of these get?
I think Wrangel, last time we weighed him was about 30 pounds, but that was a while ago. And I was actually looking into how heavy can octopus get, and it's one of those like folklore things where, different people claim different numbers. Like, you look up one source and they're like, it was 1,000 pounds, and it's probably not real. But one credible source stated that the largest octopus they've ever seen.
So got you pretty good, huh?
Oh my gosh. The largest recorded octopus was 200 pounds, which
Wow.
is very large.
Yeah, and they're mostly entirely muscle. As you can
Right.
see, they've got a pretty good grip on Leo here. And like we said, the suckers don't hurt, but they can get a good grip.
Right.
Let's see. Maybe if I can give him a clam over on this side, he'll have more interest in a clam.
Yeah.
But if you did see the arms on these, of course, have suction cups their whole length, and they get bigger. So the closer you get to the mouth, the stronger those arms actually become, or the stronger the suckers become.
Yeah, like a 3.5-inch sucker can hold up to 30 pounds.
Wow.
It's incredible the amount of strength that they have.
I think he's like, well, that thing fought me off, so I don't want any more of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you see they are, when we first started this, he's just sitting there in the corner, but he really livened up, and he's strong.
Oh yeah, he's definitely strong.
So yeah, they are just fantastic animals.
Yeah, the first time I met Wrangel, I had this feeling after working with Wrangel for a while that, we do these octopus encounters every now and then, and new visitors would come in and touch the octopus and then simultaneously feed them. And after some time, I have a feeling that Wrangel has associated new tastes, new hands with food. And so the first time I was with Wrangel, I think he thought of that same thing. He's like, ooh, new guy, I could maybe haggle for some more food. And so I just let him do his thing without really knowing what was going on. And I'm slowly, going like hands deep,
Yeah.
like arms deep, almost elbows deep. And I feel like I'm being dragged off into the ocean, and I'm like talking to one of the other aquarists who's way off in the corner. I'm like, hey, like, is this okay? He's like, oh, don't worry about it. They're highly intelligent. They're just tasting you.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm like being dragged off. I'm like, ah! But what's cool is, it probably didn't make the best demonstration right now, but I feel like over time, Wrangel has, in a way, almost respect me, or we've developed some sort of relationship where he'll hold out his arm, I'll hold out mine, we'll connect, and then I'll feed him, and he'll take the food, and then he'll release me, and we'll go.
They do seem to almost recognize people.
Right.
Yeah.
So I found that really interesting. I didn't expect to develop such a relationship with an octopus.
Yeah, and we, like you said, we have multiple octopus here,
Right.
and I've been here several years now, and we've had several octopus over that time that I've been able to interact with, and they all have like different personalities.
Yeah.
Some are really standoffish. We actually had one named Timber a couple years back, And Timber was probably the most curious octopus I've ever seen.
Interesting.
Always reaching out. And I think before he came to our collection, I think that kind of had bit him, both figuratively and literally, to be that curious because he was missing the tip of one arm. And of course, they grow that back. So he had like a teeny tiny little baby arm growing out. But he always just was reaching and investigating, whereas Wrangle's kind of tucked up there. Right. So they always seem to have different personalities, which is fun.
Yeah. And you know, like with that distributed intelligence, something I've wondered is like, I wonder if each arm has different experiences, and each arm may have different personalities maybe.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure like the front two arms, it seems like an octopus really swims forward.
Yeah.
And so the first two arms usually, I'm assuming, would get the most interaction between its environment. So I wonder if like the first two arms are a lot more curious or a lot more brave compared to, you know, maybe the back two arms that only feels and sees you know, the actions, but doesn't really get to interact. And maybe they're a little bit more cowardly. I don't know.
With the distributed nervous system, right? To what extent does each arm have individuality? It's really a fascinating thing. Of course, one of the books, whenever I'm working here and we talk about the octopus, someone always asks me, Soul of an Octopus is a book out there. If you are interested in this sort of investigation and philosophy, right? Philosophizing into like the thought process behind what is an invertebrate. That's something to keep in mind here, is these are most closely related to clams, slugs, and snails. And we don't think of clams and slugs and snails as being like particularly intelligent. We don't think of them as being fast, right? They're famously slow creatures. We don't imagine them like chasing down prey. But the cephalopods, like Wrangle here as the octopus, or cuttlefish, nautilus, squid, those are also mollusks, but they are those things we just said we don't expect, right? They're fast, they're intelligent, and they are predators. I mean, we hand him these clams, but in the wild, Wrangle would be out hunting things. Okay. All right. Well, if you want to toss him down that last clam that I managed to pull out of the shell, just so we don't have that sitting there. But I think we'll leave him in his corner. Maybe he'll want that clam. Maybe he does. Oh, there he goes. He's like, oh, this one's not fighting back. But thank you so much for joining us for yet another Telequarium. Again, we're doing these streams live on our YouTube channel every day at 12 and 2 Alaska time, which is actually 1 o'clock in the afternoon and 3 o'clock Pacific time. But hopefully you can tune in for more of these Telequarium programs. If you want to know when they're coming up, about an hour beforehand, go ahead, give us a thumbs up on this video, and then just go subscribe, hit that bell on our channel, and you'll actually get a little notification when we're about to go live. We'll usually give you about an hour heads up. And we're hoping to have more close-up experiences and encounters with the animals at the Sea Life Center. We'll probably see Leo a lot more. We got a lot of critters here at the Alaska Sea Life Center, and we're really excited to share them with you. So once again, we'll see you next time.